So I've been joined by Andrew Morrison here, the Managing Director at the Clydeside Distillery. Pleasure to meet you, Andrew, and thank you for taking time to meet us.
No problem.
Looks like we've picked a great day for it. The weather's perfect, the building looks great. So obviously this old building and the Queen's Dock has steeped in history, but what was it about this area and this building that made your family decide to use this as your distillery?
Yeah, I mean, I think we looked around in Glasgow, a couple of different sites, but the key thing that was really jumping out, I think the pump house is so iconic.
Yeah.
You know, everyone drives past it from the expressway, and we looked at Scotway House as well, because that's quite an iconic building as well, but we really wanted to be closer to what's really going on, the regeneration on the Clyde, and being so close to the SEC, the Riverside Museum, also what's planned between us here. Also, like I say, across the road we've got SWG3, what's going on in Finniston, so it's a really vibrant area. So I think when we found this area, it was the clear front runner as far as prime location, and obviously, you know, the pump house is 1877, beautiful sandstone listed building, and we just felt if we were able to secure this site, it really would be a very iconic site for Glasgow.
A lot of people know the history of your great-great-grandfather being part of the building of this pump house. Was that something that was taken into consideration when you chose it, or was it sort of coincidental?
No, it was coincidental actually. It was one of these things, the more research we did, we'd actually already secured the building, and then it was a question of when we were looking at the visitor centre aspect, looking at the heritage of the site, that's when we started to uncover all these great little connections with the family, and obviously the building company Morrison and Mason, and this location. And one thing that many people don't know is Morrison and Mason were also involved in bringing Loch Katrina's water to Glasgow.
Oh, right.
So there's a great tie in there that's the water we use for our spirit, so there's an even tighter connection out with just the building.
It's certainly fantastic for a new whisky distillery. Every distillery seems to have its own, its own story, its own culture. You know, I read in a recent article that you done with the Scotsman that you weren't always in the family business. You know, at what point did you decide that you wanted to make the jump into whisky?
Well, I think it was really when I felt I had something to offer, and that took, best part of 10 years of working in retail in California in different environments, whether it be e-commerce, whether it be soft furnishings, products for kitchen. I mean, it was a huge company I worked for, Williams-Sonoma, and then it became a gradual transition. Well, how do I apply that to the whiskey industry? Whiskey business, and so then it was a connection with our importers and learning from the ground up, really, sales, marketing, and retail channels. And it was a great insight to see firsthand what made products successful, because the best way to find out is be out there trying to sell it and find out what challenges. Was it the price point? Was it the quality of the spirit? Was it the packaging? Was it the perception? And really, unless you're out there trying to sell something, you don't really get the true feedback on it.
It really tees you up nicely from a business perspective, so know the business before you get into the
and I was very aware of moving into a family business, not just for the sake of, it's a family business, but being able to contribute. And I felt that I needed to go out and learn the ropes a little bit better before I could.
Excellent. Does the fact that you've got that family tie with whisky, do you think that puts a bit of pressure on the distillery for the first release?
I don't think so, because when we sat down with Alistair and started talking about our first release, we're very aware that it's a busy visitor centre, and we were worried. The concern is that it can be seen as a bit of a tourist trap, so therefore we have to be even more careful and more diligent on the quality of the spirit we're producing, because ultimately that's the key success factor to everything, is having a really good single malt in the marketplace. So when Alistair and I sat down and talked about what we're going to do, we had to say that I gave him the remit that whatever you need to do as a distillery manager to make the best possible spirit, we'll support that from a business point of view. There's not going to be pressure on how many litres we're producing or short fermentations. Whatever you think is required, we'll support that from a business end.
That's good. So you've got a lot of people, they'll be rushing to get their first release out there. but you guys seem like you're taking your time to get it right.
Yeah, it's been interesting because one of we get comment cards here from people that do the visit, and always the number one complaint is that we don't have spirit. Because maybe we're so aware of how young we are, but other people visiting just think we're distilleries, so naturally we'll have our spirit ready. So they're quite disappointed that they're not able to buy a spirit. So I think what we'll do, we potentially will have a whiskey available on premise. Perhaps maybe slightly earlier than a whiskey going to market to satisfy the demand there, but certainly the first release to market is going to be when we really feel confident that it's of a quality that we want.
It's understandable. Is there any sort of indication you can give us as to when you think that might be?
I would guess probably 4.5 to 5 years will be first release. That we are diligently checking samples all the time of spirit maturing in whether it be sherry, first fill bourbon, second fill, D-char, E-char, and we're really happy with the way it's progressing. So it gives us confidence that something relatively young will be of a quality that we're happy with.
Certainly, as a Glaswegian whisky fan, it's great for us to see a distillery open up that we can watch grow. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he's produced as a first release. So I have to ask, we've had a wee look at all the whiskies that are lined up outside this room here. Are these your whiskies? Is this your collection of whiskey?
This is my dad's. Right. Yeah. You can probably tell by the age of someone who's been collecting for a while. So
do you know what the oldest one you've got?
I don't know what the oldest one. He's just really into. You'll notice a lot of them are blends. The old blends, and I think he's always been fascinated with the old blends because so many of them have disappeared from market now, which is quite sad. As a
whiskey drinker yourself, I presume, what is your favourite dram? What do you drink?
I do mix it about a little bit, but I think if I was to say a go-to dram, I really like Glendronach 18. It's got plenty of character in there, some spiciness. You get some of the strength kicking through, but then it mellows. It's kind of my go-to dram.
Excellent. Well, I think the only time I tried it was at a whisky festival. I don't actually have a bottle myself, but I know you've got some down in the shop, so I might check that one out.
Well, it's a very reasonably priced 18-year-old as well.
Excellent. I look forward to trying that. Well, thank you very much for your time. It's been great, and I know that this was sort of last minute that you were brought in to speak to us, but
delighted to do it.
Perfect, nailed it. So
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.